makes great art interesting is how many elements work together to create the work's meaning. Art that addresses our intellectual or emotional selves can comfort, challenge, delight, disgust, inform, or maybe confuse us. If we are receptive, it can open us to new possibilities for how we see ourselves, society, and culture. What separates artists from most people is that they ask questions about the world and use the materials and techniques of the visual arts to express their findings. There are as many ways to do that as there are artists. However, there are some concepts that are found in almost all art across various times and genres. These are theme, subject matter, and motif. These concepts are closely related, so much so that sometimes they seem like they mean the same thing. But if we really want to understand the complexity of art, it is important that we make the distinction between these terms. In a nutshell, the theme is the big idea, what the work is about, or rather what it means. The subject matter are the elements that the artist uses to carry that theme. The subject matter could be people, objects, nature, or even geometry or color. A motif is an important element that recurs in an artist's work. It might be something that repeats in a single artwork or over several artworks. In this still life painting by Adrian Van Utrecht, we can see that he has painted an elaborate tableau of food, musical instruments, and furniture with a few animals thrown in for good measure. All this stuff is obviously well painted, but Adrian's interest wasn't the stuff. All the stuff was a symbol for some aspect of life. The stuff was the subject matter that carried the theme, which was about the contrast between the bounty and fleeting nature of life. This message about life was the big idea he wanted to express. If we look at a number of Adrian's paintings, we can find some of the same objects included in each one. For example, the parrot shows up in several works. The parrot would be one of Adrian's motifs, an important recurring element carrying symbolic meaning. Let's take a look at three other artists and see if we can determine how the theme, subject matter, and motifs work together in their art. Weiwei is a Chinese artist who has many artistic interests. He is also very concerned with social issues. Wei was troubled by the refugee crisis caused by the war in Syria. He went to Greece, where many of the refugees fled, and got to know some of these people. He began to make a series of works that addressed this refugee crisis. We could say that Wei's subject matter was the refugees and their plight. But while Wei wanted to bring attention to the crisis through his art, his theme was about the inhumane aspects of war and the struggle of people to survive. In several of Wei's works addressing this issue, he used as a motif the actual life jackets and rubber boats the refugees used in crossing the Mediterranean Sea looking for safety. Living, working, and teaching in California during the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, Robert Arneson was a pivotal figure in taking ceramics from the category of functional craft to that of art. His clay sculptures used humor as a way to flub his nose at the snooty, self-important art world that saw clay as second class to painting and sculpture as an art form. His theme was the absurd and ironic situations in which people find themselves. One of Arneson's motifs was using his own image as a subject matter in his sculptures. The irony in his work is that he took his approach to humor in art very seriously. When a work of art is non-objective, meaning it has no recognizable objects in it, it is sometimes easy to find a motif, but harder to figure out what the theme and subject matter might be. Beginning in 1950, and over the next 26 years, Josef Albers made hundreds of paintings in a series he called Homage to the Square. These paintings consist of only 2 or 3 squares that he painted with a palette knife. How could he stay interested in using such a simple motif? Albers chose the square precisely so he wouldn't have to make compositional decisions. You see, he was interested in how we see color and how various colors interact with each other. His theme, his big idea, was that we can never really see a pure color because color is always affected by the colors around it. He was exploring all the implications of those interactions. The subject matter in this case is not a still life, nature, or a person. The subject matter is the color itself. When people ask, what does this artwork mean? They are trying to make sense of it. Now that you see the distinction between theme, subject matter, and motif, perhaps it will be easier to find a meaning in a work of art.